My name is Cassy Summers. Welcome to the Curious Universe podcast. Welcome to the show. Today, I would love to explore with you when you're just not into it, what do you do? I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about the holidays, the celebrations, these kind of traditional things. I've heard from a lot of people this year, those kind of, it was starting last year, but this year's like stronger than ever. This kind of like lack of desire to celebrate Christmas or Halloween or any of these types of, it might be, a different kind of tradition that you celebrate wherever you live in the world. And more, people are having less drive, less excitement to celebrate those types of things. Now, what is that? What's going on? It could be one thing where you're experiencing that in your own life because you've done a lot of transformation, you've been looking at a lot of things. But when we're seeing this on like a global scale, you have to start to wonder what's going on globally that's creating this. So one thing I've really noticed is that the structures of this reality are starting to break down. What does that mean? Well, that means that when you're part of what traditions do, they can do is actually continuously put you back into different structures of this reality. A structure could be the structure of family, the family structure, the political structure, the school structure. We have structures all over the place, right? And so these kind of holidays can get you like reconnected to the structures so that basically you're part of what's feeding it in existence. You're what's holding it in place. We know the tragedy of rituals or customs that used to be handed down from generation to generation have been lost. We've heard of this happening. And those kind of beautiful traditions, those beautiful cultures that actually expand people's lives can get cut off and lost, whereas these other structures seem to prevail. The structures of like the consumerism of Christmas, the candy company of Halloween, yet we're losing some of the magic. So what do you do? What do you do when the structures are breaking down and now you have this space around something and you're wondering, am I the crazy person that's not going to celebrate? Am I losing something? And you might have those like old dying structures come out and like whisper to you, like, don't lose me. Don't let me go. Family members might be trying to hold on to it. You might be experiencing a lot of ups and downs and confusion about all this. So that's what I wanted to explore here today with you on the Curious Universe podcast is if the structures are breaking down, what if that's a possibility to create something new? And it can include the holidays, Christmas, Halloween, Diwali, or whatever it is for you, right? Hanukkah, and it could not. And what if you get to choose and you get to create whatever you want to create? So I asked myself if there's no pressure on me, even for my kids, to celebrate Christmas, what would I choose here? So this is a question you can ask yourself. Whether it's this holiday or another holiday, it could even be your birthday, right? I'm not a big birthday person. I don't really go all out and have a big celebration. And some people do. If there's no pressure on me, there's no pressure on you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. What would you choose? And so I started to look at Christmas and what it can bring in. I live in Canada, so it gets very dark here. We have really short days. It gets very, very cold. Sometimes it's cold without snow, which is just no fun. And so it can actually feel kind of depressing here. And Christmas, some people find Christmas depressing, but Christmas for me was always like an infusion of energy and joy and excuses to play board games and listen to ridiculous Christmas music and baking and feasts and all this stuff. So when I started to look at that, I'm like, oh, whether we call it Christmas or not, I would love to have a celebration in those months where things get a little darker, they get a little slower, they get a little laggish, they can get a little low. And if we call it Christmas, sure, I don't really care. It doesn't come for me from a religious place. And I have actually broken down the structures of Christmas for me. It took me a few years when I started to really ask questions about what's my reality. So the first step is to really just kind of get clear. Like, would you celebrate during this time or would you not? Yeah, and you might have a lot of stuff coming up because often we have like almost programs in place to argue for something we've been doing for a long time, even if we don't want to be doing it anymore. So everything that is arguing, everything that is not allowing you to know, be, perceive, and receive what's true for you, will you destroy it and create it, please? Right and wrong, get a mad, pock and pot, all 9 shorts, boys, pobats, and beyonds. That, my friend, is the Access Conscious Clearing Statement. Whether you've heard it before or not, you can go to theclearingstatement.com if you want more information. Here on the show, we just use it as a magic wand to clear energy. So, so sometimes you need to ask yourself a question a few times. So we're getting clear. Okay, so if there's no pressure on you to maintain whatever holiday, insert holiday here, from any source, including yourself, what would you choose at this time of year? What would you choose? You know, one of the things I like about Halloween, it's fall, it's earthy, pumpkins, like it's festivally, there's something that I really like about it. Dressing up, I could take it or leave it. You know, the candy, take it or leave it. Like pumpkin cake, I would take it. Birthday, same thing. So if you start to look at it not from these structures that you're trying to keep in place or you're fighting to break down, they're breaking down. It's happening because consciousness is rising on the planet. And when consciousness rises, those structures that hold anti-consciousness and unconscious in place will start to break. It's actually beautiful. It's wonderful. Rather than we should be celebrating that the structures are crumbling around us, even though it might seem like havoc. This is giving way for us to create a new world together. And when I say together, that doesn't mean that we're all doing the same thing. It doesn't mean we have to convince people to not celebrate Christmas or to celebrate Christmas. It can be this beautiful individual choice that will ripple out into the world. I know a lot of people that have stopped celebrating New Year's and they're actually following the old traditions where the new year, depending on which calendar you follow, is actually at a completely different time of the cycle. And so what if you could get clear on what is it for you? What is it for you? What would be fun? Maybe you don't do a gift exchange. Maybe, if you live somewhere like I do, it's like a day of sledding and skiing. Maybe it's a day to spend time with family. Maybe it's none of that. And what if you're not the Scrooge? Oh my gosh, that might be an implant. Maybe you're not the Scrooge if you don't hold on to the structures of Christmas. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Everything that is time to cut silly, we destroy it, create it, please, right, wrong, get bad, pock, bot, all nine shorts, boys, public guns. And again, I love Christmas. I, every year, am creating a greater and greater possibility of Christmas. And it just keeps like almost having it's not a vision because it's not so much solid in that way. It's this awareness of a possibility that I keep bringing in every year, like more of that possibility where it's becoming what I've been aware of it could be. It's just taken like some goes at it. And the more the structures break down, that's been making it easier and easier for me to have what I know is possible during this time, what I would like to have for me and for my kids, not from having to maintain a tradition. Like, for some people, being that weird family that doesn't celebrate would be so challenging, and you'd feel so much social pressure. And, and there are some, Jewish people in Canada that they don't celebrate it. So it's kind of like this weird thing that can create separation. But what if it didn't create separation? What if it was like, oh, you chose not to have kids, I chose to have kids. Cool. It's just a choice. What if the holidays were just a choice? And yes, of course, the rest of the world, they might be getting holiday time off. It's kind of depending on your country. In Canada, most people get a few days off around Christmas. It could just be a day off. If you don't want to celebrate it that way, yeah, you get a day off. Or you could be the person that works that gets double time. Because you don't celebrate it, because you don't need that day off, and you can use that to your advantage. So anything that does allow you to use, there we go. Anything that does allow you to use the holidays to your advantage, will you destroy it and create it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pocket pod. Holiday shorts, boys, moments, and beyonds. Do you see, when you start to use everything to your advantage, you're not fighting for it, you're not fighting against it, you're not defending, you're not avoiding. You get to have this space of total and true possibility, regardless of what's going on. And yeah, you can choose. Of course, there will be people, if you choose out of a tradition that everyone's used to, they might try and fight a little bit to keep you in. But if you don't even fight them, you can just be interesting point of view. After a while, those that adore you, those that are grateful for you, they will lean into what's making you happy. So if it makes you more happy, more joyful to just not do the holidays, then those that love you will want you to be joyful and happy, right? Yeah, we're so conditioned to try and make everyone around us happy and make everyone around us feel comfortable. And that structure is slowly breaking down too. Because truly, when you're happy, when you're like just so happy and so full of joy and so like full, and you're being, those that are willing to receive that, they get more of them too. And they might be celebrating Christmas and you're not. What if that doesn't have to create a separation? Or you're the one celebrating Christmas and you have that, weirdo family member or friend that just like isn't interested. What if we didn't have to try and hold these structures in place? That can feel scary to some people, especially control freaks, because we already know these structures. These structures have been around for so long. And so part of that control piece is predictability. And we can predict what's going to happen. And we can predict, Christmas sales. And we can predict how people are going to behave, and we can predict all of these things. And we like that because we want to, in that predictability, we feel like we have control and we feel like we can control our lives. But if you're willing to be out of control, then predictability becomes less seductive and less valuable to you. It becomes less of a priority, because out of control is this space of creation where you're in total creation. So that means every Christmas you'd create it to be greater or different. Your life, you'd create it every day to be greater or different. But in that predictability, it's not going to get greater or different. It's going to be predictable. And in that predictability, it might have a slow, like, up line, right? Like we see, like, slow growth in businesses, stocks kind of thing. Those are those more secure types of investments. Ooh. And if that wasn't more valuable to you than the joy of the adventure of living, I wonder what would be possible. Because you can't go on an adventure and have everything predictable. You can have certain elements like, okay, we're going to definitely eat on this adventure. We're definitely going to bring food. We'll bring clothes. We'll do some things. We know the weather's going to be this way, so we can kind of predict what clothes to bring. So there's like that type of stuff. But a true adventure has, just tap into the energy of adventure. It's not predictable. And so are you willing to have a life that is full of adventure? Are you willing to have holidays that are full of adventure? Some people think adventure is doing something like, I'm going to go skydiving or ziplining or something like that. Yet they still have it all predicted out. Is that really an adventure? But you can create your holidays or non-holidays as a magical adventure every year. You just have to ask some questions, clear out some stuff, do some magic. And that actually brings me to an invitation. I am doing a 3-day live event where we're going to create our own holiday. We're going to create a magical holiday together in a group. I have some magical tools that I've used, and they have just created so much joy for me and my family and everyone that I know that has used these tools as well. And we're just going to have fun together and explore the adventure of creating a truly magical holiday. And you could apply it to any holiday. Of course, it's in the Christmas season, so we're going to be talking about Christmas a lot, and we're going to be talking about all that kind of stuff. But it can really be anything. It could be any celebration. It could be any of these things, and not from maintaining the structures, because we've just acknowledged they are breaking down. And I have no desire to hold them up. I am totally fine if Christmas disappeared off the planet tomorrow and I woke up and no one even knew about it. No one even, except for me, like even my kids, no one remembered what Christmas was. I would still create something during this season, because I know that there's an energy here. And when I tap into that and I create from that space, it's like infinite possibilities. When I go from the structures that are already here and I'm like, okay, so how do I work with what's here? Then there's finite possibilities. There's only so many possibilities within this box. So so where you've been trying to create magic within the structures of the holidays that never worked for you, will you destroy it? Create that, please, right now. I'm getting mad talking about all nine shorts, boys, bobas, and beyonds. That's kind of a doozy, because that can create where people go into like, well, I guess I don't have magic, or this didn't work, or either judging themselves or judging the tools that they had to use magic with. But really what's going on is trying to create within these structures is finite, because they are structures. It is if you had a building that's a structure, right? You can only do so much to it without destroying like the core structure of it, without changing the structure. Take out the furniture, new wall paint, but it still maintains the same structure. But if we're looking at something where there is no structure, everything is malleable, then you can create anything. You can change anything. And that's where, for me, the fun of being a wizard really lives, in that space of infinite possibilities. So would you be willing to let these structures fall? Let them all collapse around you. You will be okay. The structures that are for consciousness, they will get stronger. And really, I wouldn't even call them structures. I would call them elements. They will be there. You don't have to worry about them. But we all have to really let the structures go to have the world that energetically, like our beings are all asking for. We're all asking for something greater. This whole world, doesn't matter what country, what side, what religion, what race, what gender or non-gender. There is a calling of consciousness for something greater. And in that calling, structures will fall. And that, funny enough, includes the holidays. So let them fall like snow, like poofing up a snowman and just watching all of the flakes disperse and fly as we together create something truly magical, truly different, and truly wondrous. There are far greater possibilities than what we currently have on this planet. And I know you know that, or you wouldn't even be here listening. I hope that this call contributed to you. Play with those questions. Really look at that for you. If you woke up tomorrow and no one remembered on this whole planet what Christmas was like, the holidays were like, Hanukkah was like, or whatever it is for you, what would you create? Would you create anything? And if you would, what would you create? How would it be? What elements would you have there? What energies would you bring? And if you're so inclined, please join me for, it's going to be December 5th, 6th, and 7th. We'll put a link below. It's a free invite and just my gift to the world to create something really wonderfully magical this year. And I'll see you in the next show. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you for exploring the curious universe with me. Your curiosity matters. And what if together we could create a greater, more curious world?